All right, it's another Thursday. It's another Thursday, and we are here. Dr. Andy Combs and Levi Matthew Billups Doherty, Levi MBD, coming to you live and in living color. I'm the color, and he's a living, something like that. All right. So,
living better than dead.
well, we talked about that about 2 hours before we got online here.
Right.
What is alive, and we were talking about the sources of energy and so forth and so on, and what is principle versus truth. Anyone can have their own truth. For instance, when Eve and Lucifer was in a conversation, dialogue together, Lucifer was trying to prove to Eve that what he was saying was true, as the same as what God was saying was true. He said, well, it's also, you won't really die, the day you eat of this fruit. It means that you will have life. You have eyes to be open and you will see. Same thing, you'll gain more life if you eat this, and you will die from your old self. He convinced her that concept, which was true and also a lie at the same time. So how then we were talking about the concept of what is true and what is false, what we hate and what we love. And these words create images in our hearts and minds, and it causes a certain energy comes from that. If you say, oh, I hate Donald Trump, that energy that comes from that vibrates throughout the universe. Oh, I love my donkey, I love my dog, I love my cat. That energy vibrates, and we don't realize how much of the energy we carry around us. It's like a force field, energy field around us, and people pick it up. So how then can we live rather than what's right or wrong, what's I hate or love? We want to change the definition to, is it principle or unprincipled? So I love someone, but is my love based on principle? Or is it based on my selfishness or what I want? And we also discuss there's a level of selfishness that is necessary. So it's not wrong to be selfish, but it is wrong to be selfish, unprincipled to be selfish, if you just focus on yourself receiving and not giving, or if you're focused on yourself and using someone else's energy to make yourself better, is also unprincipled. However, you need your self-preservation in order to stay in good health and good understanding. You have to eat right, exercise, think right, sing songs that benefit your spirit, rather than these rap music and is cussing and MF this and bitch that and all these kind of things pulls your energy down. And is it principle? So we decided, and we talked about it, and Andy will talk about this, whatever's not, he can say it better than me, whatever's not giving life and light is unprincipled. So let's take it away, Andy. What we were talking about this morning, to me, I was trying to figure out how we can create a principle rod where we can determine this is principle and that's not principle. And I mentioned to you, I went to a divine principle program in Las Vegas for a whole 7 days. Like, I guess they call it a 7-day workshop. And at the end of that 7-day workshop, I couldn't determine how to live a principled life. I was disappointed. I learned a lot about who failed and who didn't fail, and providence and this way and that way, but it didn't help me to become a principled person. It gave me a lot of history based on the interpretation of the teacher, but I did not know how to become a better principled person when I walked out of that 7 days. So for me, That's not a criticism. It's just an observation.
It's experience, your experience.
Yeah, and what I want to do is take all that I received there on that 7 days and keep it. It's wonderful, but I want to also transform it into a level of energy that I can live a principled way of life. And I know and I know that I will be living a principled way of life because I'm able to influence others to do the same, just by my energy, my understanding, my wisdom, my principled way of life. So that was a long discussion this morning, but I wanted to be able to wrap it up here in front of our wonderful, beautiful guests.
Okay. Uh, one of the toward the end of our discussion, I think, and it's based before I came here. I asked Heavenly Father, well, what would you like us to talk about today? What would you like me to talk about? And he said, let's talk about our relationship. Oh, okay. So my meeting with Levi began with my relationship with Heavenly Father. That is, my mind wanted to get my mind wanted to get my body over here, and needed to be in a timely way so we could do this. And there's a certain purpose, and I wanted God to be involved. So I talk to him. We pray, and we hope and expect, and sometimes get a very clear impression of what we should be thinking about, what we should be doing. And I think to get there from here, that means from where I am in my heart, spirit, mind, to the highest place I can get, the happiest place, where God can be most pleased, I can be most pleased, the people around me can be most pleased, and we can all be the most radiant and happy that we can be. That is a path. I'll call it a divine path. What is a divine path? Any place on that path, I wouldn't say, oh, you are divine, unless you could say, I'm walking a divine path. Meaning, I may be at a different level than someone else. Someone may be very high compared to me. But if I'm walking the divine path, I'm going the right direction. So what is that? Now step back and talk about physics. Because everything is about, really, existence and interactions. And when we have interactions, we enter interactions with a certain state of mind, of body, and we have interactions with things, food, the kitchen, with our spouse or loved one, with the outside, with the air, with all sorts of things, with God and with one another. We have interactions. And the intent and the nature of our interaction when those things happen, talking, thinking, will determine largely what the consequences are, both for what we're feeding ourselves and our spirit, and for how it ripples out and influences others. So there's intent, there's preparation, there's thinking, and there's interaction, there are consequences. I would contend that I think we ended up our discussion this morning, the fundamental aspect of this divine path, the core, is something we call the Trinity.
Mm.
What is that? Involving God as the absolute subject of our reality. That is, we intend to be humble and think of God and open our awareness to God and then interact with God. When we have something called the divine principle, we have something called four-position foundation, which is a model for these interactions. And God is a subject, and there are two interactors, might be our mind and body. So let's start there. Our mind and our body, I want to get my body here on a timely way. I interact with God to say, what do you want to be done? How should we go about it? Or what should I say? I'll talk about your relationship with me. Okay, so that's an interaction with God. And God will protect us. I'm sure I don't have the scientific facts that back that up. I got here, and we've had a wonderful discussion. Now, my mind and body, I could have let my body say, I'm still hungry. I think I'm not going to Levi's now. I'll go later. And so that creates a dislocation. He expects me a certain time, and we have certain. So if I let my body dominate my thinking, then that is, I let my thinking say, I'll let my body, I'll serve my body. We have to serve our body. If we're hungry or we're thirsty, we better do it. If we need to breathe, we better do it, or we're going to die. But there's certain reasonable things and unreasonable things. The consequences that we have in our interaction with our mind and body will be better having involved an absolute source. In this world, we almost, I don't want to cast a general statement on everybody, but to a large extent, we deal with things pairwise. That is, I think about, oh, I'm going to go to Levi's and let's talk. I don't generally, maybe one might not think about God. One might not ask God. One might not want to involve God or invite God. That means it's pairwise. Pairwise, you get lost because you're relating to nothing as absolute. If we just relate to anything that's relative to my body, relative to my thinking at the moment, whatever, you might have a husband and wife dealing with it. It's like two butterflies going around each other, but they'll part. Unless there's an absolute source that relies on my fidelity, that relies on my love. God himself has give and take. Their interactions. He wants to see us honor him, honor his laws. And he wants to love us and help us grow. It's like giving us light. It's like nourishment. In divine principle, we call it life elements. We are nourished. Without that nourishment, it's like there's no life. It's like if the sun were to go off, plants couldn't make glucose. And eventually they die. And plants and animals, they would all die. We need the sun as a source of that energy. It's really energy. Energy is transferred from that source to the object, and we can live. As we speak, we live by the life elements of God, which is a spiritual source. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe spiritual is the wrong word. It goes beyond spiritual, but I would call it, and this is using scientific terminology without establishing a scientific fact in some particular way. So it is still a kind of terminology. It is a speculation, you could say, but it's based on observations from the eternal world. In particular, there's a mediumistic interview with
Philip Burley?
No, Philip Burley's interview with the woman that was
Harry Tubman?
Harriet, yeah, that's right. Harriet Tubman, right?
Yeah.
She said that we are emanations of the source of love, the source of love being God. So we receive that energy. It's a life source. It's a spiritual life source. There's a transfer of energy. And like any interaction, Newton would say in the law of interaction, for every action of one thing on the other feels an equal and opposite force from the one. So there is a mutualness of that interaction. So God is affected by us as we are affected by God. Did you know if I have a ball and hold it, there's a force of Earth on the ball. Did you know that there's an equal and opposite force of the ball on the Earth? It's equal. But the Earth is so big, then the ball will sort of gravitate toward it rather than the Earth toward the ball much more. So we live by laws, and how do we get there from here? What is the divine path? I believe that it it is determined by our thought.
Hmm.
We determine it by our thought, and we live by thought. We will die at a certain uh, level of thinking. And when we think about our interactions, what is the scope of our thinking? What is the motivation for our interaction? What is the intent? What is the scope? That is, am I just thinking of myself alone? And that's the only thing. I'm hungry. I gotta go eat. Okay, I'm gonna eat these eggs. I don't care if there are no eggs left. I'll just eat them because I'm hungry. Well, maybe you should leave some for somebody. You know, so what is the scope? What's the intent? Even when you think it's all the all about you, it isn't typically all about you.
Right.
When you leave stuff, don't leave a mess. Maybe clean it up. If not now, at least later. So,
Mhm.
so what's the scope? Now, the most fundamental, most important part of our scope must be, shall be, must be, should be, I hope will be, including God. That
Mm.
is, including God, who is a person that loves us. I don't say human, a person, a being with personality, heart, life, and he's a giver. He's a total giver. But to have him, to move him by your actions, to return love, give him joy, he never forgets. God will never forget the good you did. Never. He'll forget about the bad, and he will, if you repent, he will forget about the things that you didn't have a big enough scope.
Mm.
You didn't have a big enough understanding.
Mm.
And if you accept, self-reflect, then my thought can transform something that was bad into something that is good, and it was better than it could have been without it, because now I really learned not to touch that hot iron. I will never do that again, ever. And I will tell other people not to do it too.
Right.
So even this is a world of learning. So the path is what is divine? Divine isn't the place, it's a direction, in my opinion. We need a divine direction. If we are inviting God and actually are aware of God and have that, then we will, the trajectory, the path, the future road we will follow will be bring us to a higher, a better and better place, and help others go higher and better. It's inevitable. But just as inevitable, if we don't include God, then we will find a chaotic path, wandering here, there, and all over the place, with some good things and some bad things. But we're liable to find traps that we fall into. We get trapped, and holy bleep, we're in trouble. And then you can't get out of a trap. It's like there are things like this. You get trapped in a certain way of thinking, but until you reach out to God, maybe nothing happens. But when you reach out with God, something changes. That happened to a fellow by the name of I think it's Eben Alexander, who wrote a book, Proof of Heaven.
Mm.
I think it was him. Uh, and he was an atheist neurosurgeon, but he reached a point where he was desperate for his son.
Mm.
His son had autism. God, I don't know. And he was an atheist, but he was in a hospital, and the hospital has a sanctuary. Other people go in and pray.
Chapel, right?
Chapel.
Chapel.
And he goes in and prays. God, I forget exactly what he said. God, I may not believe in you till now, but I'm desperate. I'm desperate for my son. You know? And then suddenly something happened. And then soon after, he had an experience where he went into coma because of some infection. And he had this remarkable set of experiences.
Who went into the coma? The child or
the doctor?
The doctor.
And then he wrote Proof of Heaven, and he recounted this thing that happened to him, and he came to believe in God.
Wow.
Now, I'm sorry to say, I shouldn't have started down this road, because I forget exactly how he could help his son. I just forget.
Good.
But
We get the point.
it's interesting because I had an almost identical experience, except I didn't have this near-death experience. But at some point of emptiness, when I was about 22, I was married, but something wasn't happening inside.
Mm.
You know, it's master's program and this, but something's missing. Empty, just empty. And I cried out at some point. No, before that, someone from inside said to me, nobody was there, but I was inside on the couch, maybe, smoking some weed or something. And I heard, "You're going to die soon." Yes,
I got your attention,
you
right?
got my attention. But this happened again a couple of days later. "You're going to die soon."
Wow.
And then I thought, well, that does get your attention.
Yeah.
It got my attention.
Twice.
So soon after that, I said, I grew up Methodist, but I came at 10 years old not to believe in God. And so I was just wandering around, doing whatever I pleased. And I had a good family, so it only went to a certain extreme, but it was not good.
Mm-hmm.
But then I prayed, Heavenly Father, if you really exist, I need you.
Mm.
All of a sudden, my world turned upside down. I mean, everything changed. I got all sorts of spiritual influence, guidance. I eventually ended up meeting the Mormons, meeting, what was it, the Mary Baker Eddy, Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
Was that? No, not Scientology. The Church of Christian Science, and then the Mormons, and then I met the Unification Church, and then that was it. And so that was it. So that was part of my path on the divine principle.
Mm.
So going back one more time, most important part of that path is involving God. That's when when Moses talked about the first three commandments, they were about putting God at the center.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said, "Love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind."
Can I hold up for a minute?
Sure.
Because I don't want to lose this point. You made a major point about the four position foundation that's expressed in the Divine Principle book of lectures. I have, over the years, working with families, have changed it from the four position foundation to the four position stabilization. Because families are unstable if they don't have that Trinity in place.
That's it. It's the Trinity that relates this absolute source.
Exactly. So if they're husband and wife, they love each other's toenails, hair, everything. They love everything, but they don't have God at the top of that relationship, creating the Trinity. They're already missing a major component. It's like the sun missing the moon missing the sun, so to speak, or the ground never receive rain. You got to have something to keep life coming. The other one is, then where does the fourth one come in? And that's the child. So if one of these parents, and God is a parent, right? Husband is a parent. Now, that once the child comes, the wife is a parent now that the child is there. If one of these components, the husband, which is the father, or the mother, which is the wife, gets a divorce or walk away or have an affair or whatever the case may be, it destabilizes that system. And so now you're back with a Trinity. But the Trinity only has a foundation of oneness, beginning. Once the fourth one come in, if any one of those four is out of place, it destabilizes the Trinity, because now you're no longer one. Your energy has divided as a oneness into four parts. It's still oneness, but it's four. Now, if any one of those then become a quarter, move out, it destabilizes, because now you have, even if a child dies or killed or murdered, that Trinity is very, very shaky because they all three love that one child.
When you say Trinity, that's with
God,
God,
husband and wife, or father. They love that child. That child now is, the love is vacant there. In the actual physical state, so it's destabilized. The other one that you talked about was, creating the benefit. What is the benefit of the principle? And we talked about this at the table before we came. The benefit of the principle, we know what can be true, and it depends on your opinion of what truth is. For instance, we call Father Moon true father, but our parents then say, "Well, hell, well, what am I? If they're your true parents, then what am I? I'm nothing. I'm the real parent. I'm the true parents to you." But our opinion of what's true varies from ideal to ideal. But the principle, if it's not giving life or light, it's unprincipled. It's something that needs some maintenance to build it up. It seems to be. Can you go over that just a little bit more? And then our time is running short, but I need you to hit that point.
I hope I can. What I have in mind is this, and it goes to stability. I think I would take issue a little bit with what you said.
You don't take issue with just a different opinion. That's all.
The nature of interaction is that there's not only a before and an after, but the interactors are changed. In a simple thing, you have a billiard ball here, and it comes into contact with another one, and then when they go off, they both go off in different directions. So their energy and momentum are both changed. Also, since they hit each other, then there's a vibration inside. Some of that energy has been transferred into internal areas, fundamentally changed. This is true of all events, relationships, interactions. To maintain stability, to maintain in light of all the vicissitudes and the arrows that are being slung at us and all the events and frustrations in our life, to maintain stability, it can be done even when you lose a child. If you forsake God, you will lose stability. But if you don't and include God, you will maintain stability always. Why? Because God is absolute, unchanging. It's steady. It's like the North Star. It never changes. If I can see the North Star, I can always guide myself. So even though the pain of losing a child, it's something that can't be described. Only those that really lose their children, they know a little bit. But even every different one is different. But if you let the pain take over and start suing people because this happened, you will lose yourself. But if you include God and try to comfort God, God will comfort you all of your life, in this life and the next. He will never forget it. So if you can protect your spouse in such a circumstance from any accusation, if you want to have blame, take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. All. Then you take bad things to yourself in that case. Give good things away. If you can do that, you can survive anything. Why? Because God is there, right there. How are you going to part from God? God, it's like glue. I mean, you can't, some glue, you just can't pull it apart. It's too strong. So always, when there's a family issue, that union, the closeness of the husband and wife come closer and closer, and they have a child, and there's so much love. if God is involved, God can have direct relationship with that child. Now, maybe the child is not aware, but God is working through maybe it's indirect through the parents, but God is involved. And where God is involved, then there's stability. But it is a two-way street. So ultimately, the child one day must become involved with God, just like they were involved with their parents. Must be able to see beyond their parents. Oh, there's God, and God is behind my parents. Oh, that's why they're this way. I want to be like that. Hopefully, that would be a nice thing if that could happen all the time. Doesn't. Every path is different. But what I keep wanting to come back to, you want a stable future, you want a divine path, include God. If you don't hear his voice, look for his images, look for his information will come to you one way or another. Hopefully one way or another, you can become more sensitive to that voice, that inner voice, and begin to understand, oh, that was God. I thought that was this. No, that was me. That was God.
Right. Well, that's what I meant. I didn't. You said you take issue with what I said, meaning you something different. That you said it. You said what I was trying to say. So you're saying it in a different way, but it's not an issue. It's that because
Okay,
my point I was trying to make, and you made it much more eloquent than I could. That God is in that child just as much as He's in the mother and the father. So once that child is gone, even the child, it destabilizes the family because a part of your heart is gone. I've got 3 children in the spirit world. You've got 1, and I'm thinking about it often, and I take responsibility for those children. It took me years to get over that. Especially the middle boy. I felt I should have done more. He would have stayed alive, but I didn't. And my other son that died, I didn't know how to reach him. Otherwise, the lifestyle he was using, I was self-righteous, in my own thinking. So I have to take responsibility, as you pointed out. So that destabilized me for a while because I'm now grappling with myself to figure out what did I do wrong, what can I do better, and it takes time. You have to take time out to reassess your situation, and it's eternal. Once the child goes in the spirit world, you can't bring him back. I mean, I'm not Jesus. I can't raise the dead.
Now I know what you mean by stability is more like it seems like a change. You have to, something was going along and suddenly a sudden change.
Yeah.
And then you have to adapt to that
Yeah.
in order to maintain the existence
Right.
even of yourself or
Right.
your relationships with others. And in some cases, if there was negligence here or there, some relationship might be X out.
Right.
Because you don't trust this person because that happened
Yeah.
because of this thing. So,
Yeah.
so things happen, and it does. So I go back to stability. Okay, that's right. It does. It's a kind of shock to relationships. For example, if I take a marble, and I can put it on in a little kind of shallow cup. You have those things for
Mhm.
that you have.
Mhm.
What is it? The Japanese
Teacup.
not teacup, but you
Not a
put
big
in
cup like this one.
the soy sauce, right?
Right.
You can put a marble in there, and hey, that's just going to stay. But if you push it hard enough, it'll jump out. It'll fall on the floor.
Yeah.
So if you shake something hard enough, if it isn't like enclosed, it can jump out.
Yeah.
So
Because it's all energy.
and the trajectory of relationship can go haywire.
Right. Very true. All right. Well, thank you. We have to leave it there for today. This is Levi and Andy, brought to you by the Kingmaker, True Kingmaker Foundation. God bless you. See you next Thursday.